to get this air conditioning noise in your microphone.
No.
Start that one. That one. Use that one.
Can we begin?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, wonderful to see everybody here. Thank you so much for coming to our third FCC lecture series, Coffee with the Correspondent event. We're promising you coffee and a correspondent, and we have both, and we're going to start with the coffee. So I want to invite my friend Bharat Singhal to please just talk a little bit about the company he's co-founded, and he has kindly brought coffee for everyone to have tonight. So, but let me give him an opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Emily, for this opportunity. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. I'm Bharat Singhal. I'm the founder of a coffee brand called Billy Who. You would have got these cards. That's a Kannada word for white flower. If you flip the card, you'll see a picture of the white flower. That's the coffee blossom. And the significance of the coffee blossom is massive in coffee. We've named it after the coffee flower because the coffee flower is the actual origin of coffee. And Bidihu is a Kannada word for white flower. Why Kannada? Because that's the language spoken in the state of Karnataka. Are we all aware with a city called Bangalore, right? 5 hours from Bangalore in the hills, there's a place called Chikmagalur, where coffees were first grown in India back in the 17th century, and which is 200 years prior to tea in India. So incidentally. So though we are known as a tea drinking nation, but tea happened with the Britishers coming in, and 200 years prior to that, we were already growing coffee. So we work with farms in Chikmagalur, in Karnataka, and we get coffees from them. 90% of our portfolio is certified organic. So the coffees that you're drinking here are not just certified organic, doesn't mean only chemical-free agriculture, but one notch more, which is encouraging biodiversity. So the plantations are also certified by the Wildlife Conservation Society. And another notch, they're bird-friendly habitats. So they're also certified as bird-friendly habitats in the sense, again, encouraging biodiversity. When the birds come in, we have bees coming into the plantation. Do you know how that helps the crop? Pollination, right? More birds coming in, more bird poop coming in, helps. Because it's a proven science that no artificial synthetic fertilizers have been able to replicate the nutrition and the goodness value that natural beings tend to give to plantations. So that is something very interesting that we're doing. And every year I spend at least 2 months in Chikmagalur in the winters, about December, Jan, and work with farms, help them understand that, okay, this is really required, it's the need of the hour, because we never question what we're consuming, how we're consuming, the milk we are drinking, the salt that we're having, how is it made, how is it processed. So for us, coffee is first agriculture, and then cappuccinos and Americanos and all of that. And I hope you enjoy what we're brewing here. It's the USP of our coffee is it's not particularly bitter. It's not acidic. It's just naturally flavorful. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, I think the Billy Who crew are going to come around bringing coffee, so if anybody wants some, just signal that, and they have milk too, and sugar. Without further ado, we will get on to the main event here, which is, I'm really proud to have Danish Siddiqui here. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist for Reuters. He's contributed some of the most iconic images that we've seen in the last few months from the Citizenship Amendment Act protests, including some incredibly riveting ones this week. So without further ado, I would like to invite Danish to start talking about these pictures, both from a technical perspective and just a creative, artistic perspective. So it looks like we're going to start with this incredibly powerful picture from the Jamia Millia Islamia campus. So can you tell us, Danish, how did this picture come about?
Well, it was just like another protest. It was supposed to happen, and I was usually when these kind of protests are happening, and now the protests have now taken to a totally different level, and of course, all like many other journalists in the field, we are hostile environment trained, and we know that we don't have to be in the protesters always. We have to be near the police line so that at least policemen don't shoot you. So yeah, so I was there. I just checked out the guys who were supposed to march, the students, and I was just walking towards the police line. And during these protests, actually, people don't know, just before this, even in Shaheen Bagh, I was there. There were guns which were taken out, but nobody fired it. But many people don't know it, that there were guns like country-made revolvers which were taken out. Of course, the other guy who was caught later in Shaheen Bagh, that's a different case. So I was just walking with a couple of my other colleagues, and it was just, and the protester was like 50 meters away from us, and I saw this guy. I first thought like maybe he's drunk or he's just like, because he's this shiny gun with him, and it's a country-made revolver. So the cops were standing, of course, you can see, and there were more cops who were standing in the side, which are not in the picture. And but like nobody was bothered about it, and it was happening very quickly. And I started shouting, "There's a gun! There's a gun!" And then there was a few journalists who were just going in him, and they didn't realize that like. And I was shouting at them, "Don't go! Like so close, so close!" And because of the training, I knew that like this gun is a handgun, it's a country-made revolver or whatever pistol, and it has got a certain range, the range which can fatally injure you, and then at a safe range where you can shoot the pictures. So I was shouting at the guys, I was taking the pictures, and I was moving in the side, and not like other journalists, like, you know, because the picture, the thought process is so has to be so quick. You have to have the gunner, you have to have the police in the background. That's just because just the gunner is just a picture, but the picture is much more telling because of not only the foreground, but the background. And then I was moving, and then I could see from one eye, my other eye, that the cops were moving in. And of course, I have the picture of when he shoots the kid, the student who was running towards him, like trying to stop him. And I was afraid that because there were 3-4 young journalists, like photographers especially, I thought like maybe he might shoot, because he was not a professional guy. He doesn't know who is a journalist and who is not a journalist. He might have shot any one of them. And if it had been a bit closer, then the injury could have been a bit fatal. So yeah, but I moved away and moved in the side so that I'm not in the range, but I knew that like I'm getting the pictures also. So I have the whole series, like when he's shot, when he's captured, and then he's like, yeah, you have everything, and you're also on the safety part, like you don't want to become the story.
Right.
No.
This picture is taken in Aligarh, right?
No.
In Shaheen Bagh?
Jamia University.
Jamia, sorry, yeah.
31st January in Jamia Millia, just in the heart of the capital. Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, like, you have to, of course, because of your training, which are certainly in your mind, but like you start like processing. You're not wearing a flak jacket. You have few things on you, but you have to be careful. And the technical part, I don't think so. It's as much into technicality. I always think these kind of pictures are very easy to take.
Okay, maybe for you. But I think that
You just have to be calm, I believe. I think you just have to be calm. You don't have to get too excited. Because I've seen so much of it, I don't get so excited. I'm very calm in these kind of circumstances. And because if you are calm, then only you can get a picture. If you're not calm, if you're just like going crazy, then you will never get a picture.
Well, you can see that you had a very steady hand when you took this picture, which many of us might not if we were afraid. So
Yeah.
that shows your training.
Yeah, it's also the calmness. I mean to say, as journalists, these are like once in a lifetime moments, you know, for a lot of people. Well, I think we have done so much, so we know it's just a picture, you know, and you have to take it. If you miss it, it's fine, but it's nothing worth your life or injury or anything like that.
Speaking of loss of life and injury, I think you have a picture. Did you bring a picture tonight of
so
the protest from this week?
Yeah, just change the slide, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Oh, sorry. I don't know how to pause it, but yeah.
So eventually this guy survived?
Yeah, he survived. Yeah.
So when we
couldn't believe it.
were talking earlier this week about this picture, we were talking about how it appeared with the New York Times story. It appeared in a lot of places actually, and it was a moment this week when journalists, our colleagues, found themselves really at risk, and some of them were actually attacked. Others of them were threatened. But it was an incredibly risky and dangerous environment for journalists, in addition to, obviously, all these bystanders and protesters and the victims. But how did you navigate that environment when you felt, we were talking before, you felt that things were a bit different and a bit more dangerous maybe than they normally are for journalists?
So I've never covered riots in my life. I mean, riots, to cover a riot and to cover a war is quite very, very different, especially communal riots. And I was with my colleague, and we got a tip of something is happening in Northeast Delhi, and of course we went there with, of course, all of our protective gear, which we always carry now these days, unfortunately. Yeah, we could see something was happening there. So I think this picture was taken almost 2-3 hours after the rioting, when it had gone to a totally different level. And Devjot, my colleague, we were easily identifiable as journalists because there was just 2 or 3 journalists who were covering this side, because there was just no journalist. And so we, in those 1 or 2 hours, I think there was a kind of a confidence. We were doing some practice, building confidence among the crowd that we are not harmful to them. You know, we are just journalists doing our job. But I think the crowd was so passionate that they didn't care about us until up one point. And of course, because I was wearing my mask, my gas mask, because there was just too much tear gas shelling, and I have a helmet which says press and all. So they were fine. And they could see that I was there with them while they were pelting stones. So actually I was part, they thought I'm part of them. So they treated me as whatever. And even sometimes they used to ask do you need anything? I got hit by stones and all that a few times on my knees and shin. And they were just checking, okay, are you fine or not? There were some sane people also who were throwing stones, of course, and arsoning, and there was you could because in between I had to change position. Of course, I was checking with Dave, eye contact. This is all part of the training. It's just not that we just went there and got the picture. I think photojournalism is, I would say, more than 80%. It's about planning. And just 10%, you don't lose your stuff and then just take the picture. And it's also about luck.
What do you mean planning? What kind of
Planning is like, first of all, training, these kind of things, and planning for long that it's breaking news, okay? So it's like, it can happen now also, so you need to have your gear, everything, stuff, and your training, of course, is extremely important, and planning also includes your safety gear, personal protection equipment, that's also very important.
So I had a question about awareness because, as we were also talking about before, some of the people who were injured may not have had hostile environment training. There are a lot of freelancers out there. There are a lot of students. There are a lot of citizen journalists who just want to document this themselves but don't actually have the equipment or the training. And I've always actually wondered, as a text person, how do photographers who are working through this lens and have not a lot of peripheral vision because they're looking through the lens, how do you stay self-aware in a situation like this?
Yeah, but even when I was taking this picture, I knew when to stop and I knew when to start. So I could see the guy. I mean, like, I maybe have on the same day, maybe I missed a lot of pictures. Maybe they were much more powerful pictures. But I knew when to take my camera up and when not to take the camera up. Again, this was also part of, I would say, confidence building measure, which I was with the gang or group, which are hundreds of people. Like, they knew, okay, this guy, maybe sometimes taking picture, maybe sometimes not taking picture. But I was not missing the crucial pictures. I knew when to take the picture and when to miss the picture or let it go for the bigger picture. I didn't know that this will happen, And but like they say that there was some guy in Jafrabad who shot. I saw in the front of my eyes a guy emptying a magazine on the anti-government protesters, but I just didn't take the picture because I knew like it's too dangerous to take a picture and just expose yourself. You are still in a zone that like maybe, but this particular picture was like I could see that he's going with the guys. I was taking pictures of guys throwing petrol bombs. So we have sent out those pictures also. Like, they were fine. I mean, like, it was very raw. And we will, excuse me. And just, no, it's fine. So I could see them, like, it was just like free for all. Everybody was coming. And if you see the picture, the guy is hitting with a wicket and there's blood on the wicket and the wicket has been broken on his head or back, and then in the next frame which I have, the guy is actually snatching another stick from the guy so that he can beat him more. And when I was taking the picture, of course it was like very disturbing for me, like I'm the guy who's not only with the stick or whatever, I'm not part of the gang, but I'm just capturing, but I thought like it was very important to do that. And I shot him until a point when I thought like a lot of them were retrieving, and there were some people who said like, no, stop it, he will die. And then I retreated with them. So I didn't expose myself again like that I will be there, take a better angle or stuff like that. No, it was that at that time you have to think about the picture which you have already got. You don't want to lose that. And then you retreat with the crowd.
Can I ask about the composition? Because there was a cartoon that circulated on social media this week that was unfortunately taken down by Twitter and Instagram, et cetera. But it was done by a Kashmiri journalist named Mir Suhail, who took the central image of the victim here and placed an image of somebody who strongly resembled the prime minister doing his yoga exercise routine on the back of this man. But Mir, when I spoke with him, said he was really struck by this image because as a Muslim, he said that's how we look when we're praying.
Yeah.
Did you see that when you were taking it?
No, of course, I didn't think about so deep because just the whole thing lasted for very few seconds. Okay, but what I saw was like the calmness. He was so calm. I think he was like, he didn't fight back at all. I think he had given up in a way that it is the end. He thought it's the end now. And even if you see, I'll just show you the other picture. you see, like, he's not shouting, he's not doing anything, people are hitting him, and still, I think, when I spoke to him a couple of days back, and I asked him, did you give up? Like, because I felt like that you gave up. He said, like, yeah, I thought, like, it's the end now. I was remembering my God, and it was just
Northeast.
like Northeast Delhi. And I found like that it's a very loud picture, but it also tells you so much about the guy, the character, because it's a very silent picture also in a way. And you could see how these guys who are around him are like going crazy, but this guy, he never pleaded for his life. He was not saying anything because I was there all the time with him. And of course, there were some sane people who were also trying, like, now stop it, it's enough, like, he might die. I mean, like, I think there were much more gorier pictures when the sword is going in his head and stuff like that, which we chose not to publish because it was, I think, just too much. And when these kind of pictures tell the story, you don't have to publish those kind of stuff.
Right. So,
I can change it if people...
okay, yeah, we want to look at the next one.
No, I don't. We can go back to the previous. I don't know how to go. Yeah.
How far were you from?
Yeah. So I was just like not very far from the guy because I had his blood on my gas mask and my clothes and everything, and because the way he was being beaten up, the blood was flying around. And I'm sure the guys who were beating, they also had blood, literally on their clothes. And when I pushed back, because after that, the Muslim side saw that somebody from there, they would have not realized if he had not worn these clothes, that he looked like a Muslim, was wearing Muslim clothes and all that stuff. And they realized, then they gave him, then few of the protesters came, crossed the divider, and the others started pelting stones to give them kind of cover so that these guys are pushed back. And he was just lying on the road. So I had to push back with the guys who were pro-CA or whatever from the other side. And then they carried him. And I could have chosen to be there, compose a better picture, but I thought no. And actually it was funny because when they came back, when I was with the other guys, they said like, oh, you have blood on your face, you have blood on your mask, and then I realized, oh shit, it's like, it's like blood of someone. And it was a bit, I didn't see it at that time. I knew that I have got something because I could see it. So the thing is, like in these kind of circumstances, both your eyes are open. Because you have to also see through the viewfinder and to see the reaction of the people, from the other eye. And so I knew, for example, when to go back, when to come back, when to retreat with these guys, and also watch out for the stones, which were like coming from the other side. I was really, really like sad, but really happy that the guy survived when I saw about him. And then when I met him day before yesterday, it was like quite good to see him.
How did you meet him?
I was like, yeah, of course, one of the papers interviewed him, then through the phone. And then I called his brother and I told him, like, this is my name. He said, of course, I know you. And he said, like, I want to meet you. I want to meet your brother. And I went to see him. And it was like, I think I didn't take pictures before. I think it was like a kind of thing that like, he was, of course, he's very injured. And it was kind of emotional for him. So he also didn't see the picture yet. He hasn't seen the picture. And of course, his guys have seen it. And like when for example, one of the guys, the relative was saying that he froze. While he was driving, he saw the picture, he froze. He's like, it's my relative, like, who is taking refuge in his house now. So I don't know how the picture went, like, so I also didn't expected it. But I told him, like, I'm so sorry that I didn't interfere, because if I would have interfered, the picture would have never gone out, and we both would have been in the same circumstances, But I think he understood it, and he was very nice, and he said, like, I hope we don't have to meet like this the next time we meet, because now we are friends, and So it was like nice to see him, and I think it was like as a human being also, it was nice to see somebody that survived.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually, I think, a pretty rare opportunity for
Yeah,
a journalist to have that kind of
yeah.
connection. Actually, you bring up something I had wanted to ask you about the Rohingya crisis.
Yeah, I have a picture if you want
Okay.
to see. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll let you-
go ahead.
So my question is about that eternal question that journalists face. Do we interfere? You know, do we lend a hand, or do we write down what we're seeing and we take a picture, we continue filming? Particularly, I think in the situation you were in,
Yeah.
documenting women and children and other desperately
I mean, there's
sick
so,
people,
so,
yeah.
so many times this question has been asked, especially with the visual journalists like me, who are like really very close to these kind of things. But like I took the call, for example, I photographed her from her boat till here. I have the whole series. But when she landed on this, and she was I could feel her sinking, like she was sinking, like she couldn't believe that she has survived. And you could see her clutching the sand and all that. And I just left her in peace. Like after a few seconds, I knew I had taken the picture, and I have the picture, and I just left her in the peace, like, just not enjoy, but just be in peace for a few moments, because there is another big fight coming up within the refugee camps. So yeah, of course you sometimes have to help too, which is not interfering always, I would say. Like if you see a baby drowning, you won't take a picture. For sure, I will go and help the baby, Or if I know that I won't alter the history by saving someone, I would do that always. Yeah,
Have you done that? I mean,
I think sometimes I have missed pictures, especially in Rohingya, like because they were just like 2-year-old, 3-year-old kids walking through the high waves, and you had to, you have some picture you have, which can tell the same story, but you don't have to take the picture at the expense of somebody else's life. So yeah, you just drop the camera, get in the water, get the kids out, and then you can continue doing your work, whatever you want to do. So yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of journalists also grapple with witnessing suffering like this and understanding and seeing ourselves in the role of witnesses and also documentarians, but also wondering, should we be the ones there? Shouldn't it be social workers? Shouldn't it be aid workers, or whatever the case may be? Do you ever feel that way, or do you always feel comfortable in your role?
Aren't we? Technically we are. Like we are visual historians, and we have to document it. Somebody has to do that, Coming back to the so-called lynching picture, we had these lynching pictures coming to social media, coming on your phones, through people shaking, but I don't remember that any journalist in India has documented like a journalist has been there documenting a lynching kind of thing. I don't think so. So, somebody has to do that, but that's what we signed up for, there will be some moments where you will drop the camera and do whatever, drop your pen and to save people, it's fine. I believe that until you're not altering the history, if you think that saving someone or like pulling out someone is playing around with what is happening in front of you, or what can alter things, then I think it's fine. Yeah, personally, I think like as a photographer, if you are not a good human being, you will never be able to connect with the subjects, and the subjects will see that. They will see that whether you have respect for them or you are using them as a commodity, So I think if I don't know the way this woman is like, because more than 700,000 guys right now in the camps. She's one of them. But I think at least I believe that I gave her the dignity, gave her the respect kind of thing, and I just didn't went into her. I was at a space, went down at her level, photographed for a few seconds. I don't think so. I have more than 4 or 5 frames of this woman. And I think she looked at me once, and that's it. I just left her with the waves. It's fine. Just take it easy.
Did you reconnect with her when she was in the camps?
No, it was just so difficult. There's thousands of people must moving in and out, moving in and out. No. We tried to find, but it's too difficult.
So I think with this series, you show something much larger than a singular event. But I wonder, in India or in South Asia more broadly, in our area that we cover, especially as a fellow Wire reporter, how do you find time to kind of take a step back from the spot news story and try to convey what's happening at a much larger global level?
So I will just show you a picture which I did last year when this crazy bomb blast happened in, just a moment, yeah. It's a very quiet picture. So I always believe in the kind of era which we are living in, we are getting bombarded with pictures all the time, every hour, whether it's your social media or whatever. So you need to, and these loud pictures of crying, wailing, and all that, they get lost. I was like, they are very important pictures also. They are your bread and butter. But and I think I grew up in terms of photography in the times of Libya and Syria. So I know how a crying kid has become just another picture. So to take the attention of people who are seeing your pictures, you just have to take a step back. And I went to Sri Lanka after 1 week of bombings. I could have gone that same day. But I knew that there would be just too many people. Not too many people, there was just chaos. So for example, this I photographed when I was in Sri Lanka. The series which I photographed was the spaces which the victims left behind and how these spaces miss their victims. So that was the whole concept that I wanted to show in a different way, what these crazy acts can do to families and people, from a basketball player to a kid. So this is is bedroom of Fernando family, and it was shared by, of course, the couple and their 2 beautiful daughters. I think they were 6 and 7, and their 11-month-old son. So you can see everything is there. The kids, the daughter's bed is there, the couple bed is there, the baby bed is there. So it was just like that. And you could see that they loved co-sleeping. I mean, most young parents like me, they do that. You don't have to go again and again out in the other room, so you just put the kids in your own room. And all 5 of them went, actually, and not a single one returned. All were dead on the spot. So I think it is more, it can send you a more message when people are calm and look at it, rather than just a picture of bomb blasts, ripped bodies and all that. Because I think we are just too tired of looking at blood. I mean, that's unfortunate. We should have not been, but it's unfortunate, but that's the times which we are living in, that we are seeing these pictures, these kind of bloody pictures every day, every hour. So yeah, so sometimes as somebody who wants to viewer, you also are intrigued, what is this, and you want to read about it, you want to know about it, and then I'm a firm believer of calm silence. I think the silence speaks in you. And I always want the silence to speak in my pictures. Yeah, even then the guy, we had, as I said before, for the guy who was during the protest, we had a lot of pictures of him, where it was brutal, shouting and all that stuff. But I think the center of the picture, the guy, he's so silent, he's so calm. It is as if it's over. And I think that's more impactful. If you had the guy doing all kind of stuff, trying to save him, I think the message would have got lost. But I think the picture becomes more, a bit better, is because of the guy who was quite silent.
Yeah, I can see that. So I've been meaning to ask you, since you brought up Sri Lanka, I've been meaning to ask you how jail is in Negombo.
It was not bad.
Okay.
I was okay. I was it was just unfortunate that these guys, I don't blame them. This village had crazy killings, and people had died, and somebody from outside comes. And then
Were you shooting the school for the same, like the
yeah,
same concept?
same
of-
series, yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I had asked them, like, it was no trespassing because we had evidence of them signing the paper, like register and all. It was just like I was at the wrong place, and I think some guys just wanted to save themselves, and then they pushed me in that, and we were not expecting it. But it was okay, hard for the family, but I think it was fine.
So silence, and how do you, so there is so much noise, as you point out, and so you're making these pictures that convey stillness in a way,
Yeah.
or silence, in the middle of this
Yeah.
torrent. It's really interesting. And how else have you found to break through all the noise, especially in Delhi, especially in the last few months? Especially when the story is so dominated by
Yeah.
politics and by rhetoric. Like, how do you as a photographer
Yeah.
clear out all those words and
I still
shouting and
haven't.
just,
Still working on it.
right?
Yeah, I think, but these kind of protests are like they're going to go on for some time, and you have to find a way to showcase them. I think it takes time. I mean, I did a series, for example, I think last year, a couple of years back, on unemployment in India, and I thought about that topic for more than 1 year. I didn't want to shoot the cliche stuff, like people just hanging around and all that stuff. And one day I was going to the job fairs, and one day I went to Pune in a job fair, and then I saw so many guys who were lining up for these job fairs, and the job fair was having in a college. So it was a very simple idea which came after almost 1 year to me, like how to showcase that. Unfortunately, I don't have the picture. But I asked them, like I was in a classroom where they were all sitting and waiting for the turn for the interviews. And I asked them, can you just write what is the degree which you have done on the blackboard? And for how long have you been unemployed? And I will make a portrait of you. And it showed, like, first of all, it showed how the education system is so bad in India that half of the people couldn't write the spelling of bachelor, because they were bachelor in technology, bachelor in master, or bachelor in various streams. And then it also showed, like, in their own handwriting, for how many months or days or years they have been unemployed. So, like, it shows both the sides, actually, you know. But these kind of things come at strike at some time, you know, like, you don't know. You can't give a timeline, Evan. But I hope I find.
Okay, well, we have a big group here, so I want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, and we'll bring a mic over to you. Oh, are you raising your hand? Okay.
Danish, I was listening to everything you said very intently. I haven't been a still photographer, but I've done a lot of video all my life. Couple of things, just trying to get a sense from you as a photographer. When you're in a war zone, like you said, or in the middle of a communal riot,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen when,
Yeah, of
right?
course,
And
yeah.
two, you're not taking sides as a journalist, and you get caught in a situation, and you don't know. There's the human side to you. She
Yeah.
asked you that question.
Yeah.
Would you interfere? Would you try to stop what people were doing in front of you? They're lynching somebody, or for a child, you'll go there and stop the drowning because there's nobody to stop you other
Yeah.
than the water in the ocean. But in the middle of this melee of stupid people trying to hurt somebody, how do you control your emotion and say, I'm just taking this picture and I'm not going to save this life? Or I can't. I know
Yeah.
it. Believe me, I've been in the same situation. Do you think at that point, did you ever feel that by taking the picture, in a way, you were inciting that crowd to take another step? Because they knew, they see your lens and they know you are a lens man. There's
Yeah,
no doubting the photographer's lens.
Yeah, but I don't think so that is happening these days. They're breaking the lens. Yeah. No. It's because everybody's a photographer. If they want to take pictures, they will take their own pictures and they will put it on social media, proudly put it on social media. But nobody wants to allow a photographer to take a picture of lynching or anything else. I think the things have changed now. People are much more aware that they also are photographers or videographers, And if they want to do it for themselves, or like, I don't think that that's going to happen. That's not happening anymore. I think it's much more difficult for journalists now, especially visual journalists, excuse me, to take out the camera. I don't think so. If something bad is going on and people notice you, it's not what it used to be before. I think so. I think people are much more aware. People are much more aware. People are much more educated in terms of visuals, and people know what will happen if this picture or video goes out. You know.
In any way, they can control the narrative themselves with their own pictures and their own cameras.
Exactly. And everybody has got a camera in their pocket.
That was going to be my sort of follow-up, was that, you know, once you're in that situation, and you describe that situation pretty well, once they know you have taken that picture, they haven't said anything to you, at times, is it difficult to get away, or you get caught in a tricky situation, or
I think.
how do you calculate that?
I think it depends from situation to situation. You just need to figure it out from situation to situation. You just should not be overconfident. I always go with the sense of fear, because if I don't have fear, then I will tend to do a lot of mistakes. So I always go with these kind of situations, a little bit of sense of fear that I am not a superhuman. Things can hit me, and bad things can happen. So I don't just push myself. And I mean, like, I think it's, as you know, that comes with a lot of experience in different kind of places.
Yeah, hi Danish, I'm Pooja. I'm not a political photographer, but a wildlife photographer. My question is that you would also have your own personal beliefs when you are out there shooting. Do they come in the way of shooting? Or, like, for example, I won't ask you, there would be people, photographers who would be pro-CAA, or there would be some who are anti-CAA. So if you are following a certain belief, how does that come in the way or not come in the way? How do you tackle that?
There are two things to it. First, I leave my beliefs and my opinions as soon as I step out of my house. And secondly, I think I've taken more pictures. And if you search my name, like, I think I've upsetted both the sides. You know, I've taken pictures of Muslim stone pelting and like whatever stuff from the other side, the anti-CA and the pro-CA. So I as I said before, I don't have a very difficult job to do. I just you just have to treat yourself as a mirror. That's it, and just show the raw truth. Like, people, and I think never. I have opinions while I'm in my living room, but as soon as I get out of the living room, I treat myself as I try as my best, and I think I have succeeded enough in treating myself as a neutral person. I don't go by what I believe in terms of religion or my whatever, whether I'm Indian, non-Indian, whatever. So I don't think so. I don't think so. It has come out, and if it comes out, then I don't think so. You're an historian at all, because then you are recording only distorted history, which is unfair.
Hi, Prabhu Ghate. Do people worry sometimes in that instant that they may be recognized later, and that if there's, the police may recognize them, they maybe get into trouble? And does that make it more dangerous for you? It may be a totally unrealistic situation. I mean, what's your experience? Do the police ever use these in investigations?
I
Do
don't
these
think so.
photographs get used for offenses against rioting, if nothing else?
I don't think so. Police is doing. I don't know. I have never nobody has come up to us and Reuters or to me personally. Nobody. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know whether people are scared or not, whether they are getting photographed. I think they were at that time they were not thinking. That's why they were beating this guy. Some innocent bystander. If you would have been thinking, if you would have been sane, then you would have not been doing that.
Hi, Danish. There are two different situations. One is the violence in Northeast Delhi, which was spontaneous. So you didn't have much time to, prepare yourself, whether it's the equipment or the.
No, I had enough time.
You had enough time.
Like enough time in the sense that I am always like in my car or in my
Okay.
bag, I'm always carrying my personal protection
right.
equipment.
So basically, I want to know when you're covering the long-term sort of documented violence, whether it's Rohingya or a war series, and you have to go in and out for months at a time. So how do you deal with the suffering? How do you deal with the aspect of it in a daily, sort of sense? Because you're in and then you're out, back again to the normal life, and then you have to go back in, and you just know there's so much to cover with every visit that how do you?
Yeah.
Cope with that?
It's a fair question. I mean, it's like, but it depends from person to person. How do you want to cope up with it? I always advise my friends and colleagues who do this stuff, and which they do very religiously, is like you talk to people, you share your experiences, whether they are good or bad, with anybody, with the professionals or with your family members, whoever you're close to, so that they just don't stay with you, and that is not a good thing. I think I talk a lot with my wife. She has to listen to all the kind of stupid things which I have to say, but yeah. I think that's a very good way of taking out things from your system, whether they are good or whether they are bad. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you. My name is Arun Goel. Thank you for a very good illustrative talk.
Thank you.
And FCC has been regularly organizing sessions to train journalists in photography and so on. But I just have a very technical question for you. Yes. What you are saying is instant photography. So what are the tools and equipment that come in handy? Because, for example, everybody has a mobile phone. Now, a mobile phone is less intrusive.
Yeah.
People think that you are watching something
Yeah.
on a mobile phone and actually you are clicking. So what is then you may require a long shot to be taken, So what is the equipment that you carry or you advise for this instant photography?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, first thing is, like, I'm not a trained photographer. I started taking pictures from my mobile phone in 2008 when we had really, really bad quality camera phones. And, I've studied filmmaking, but I'm not a trained photographer. I've studied economics. So camera doesn't matter at all. Secondly, about the technical thing, I think it depends. I have, like, various cameras, various lenses, but they are all part for various things. If I'm shooting fast-paced stuff, I know what to use, and if I'm using like more kind of relaxed stuff, I know it's a different piece of equipment I will use. But like there are a couple of cameras and a couple of lenses which are always there, which are basically we call it in photojournalism as like news lens, which you can't. There's a wide lens and there is a long lens. So yeah. But again, it depends from event to event what kind of assignment you're going for. Yeah, it's like actually I have used a couple of times camera, but I have again a small camera also, which makes me look like a tourist. So think like those things. But I think the camera phones are super advanced now, super advanced, and you can do a lot of things. I mean, like nobody could have imagined that you will be shooting a HD video and taking pictures at the same time. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, but again. In Northeast Delhi, they're not even allowing you to use your phone camera. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, your first picture showing the gentleman, how do you get closure to a picture like that as a journalist? Because you are a photojournalist.
Yeah, which one was it?
The very first picture of the man shooting looked like a Uttarakhandi cop to me. Did not look like a, anti-Jamia.
Okay.
And even the last picture where you saw that lady trying to escape, I mean, basically a refugee, trying to cross that silt to get to where she is. She probably went without food for days to get to where she did.
Of course, yes.
So how do you, as a photojournalist, tell that story? I mean, do you know who that person is, for example, who was shooting in the very first picture? Or do you know what community? Do you report that? Or do you just leave a picture with a couple of open-ended sentences like you've given us today?
No,
and let us interpret.
Yeah, the thing is like, for example, the first pictures you're talking about, it was very obvious that he was the kind of stuff which he was saying while he was about to shoot, that he came from one particular group. And as I said before, coming back to that, I'm a historian. I will shoot what I see it. It's you guys who have to talk about it. I will give you the full information, what happened and why is it happened. But I won't make opinions about it. You can ask about it. And for this lady, of course, I was very close to her. I knew she was almost starved because she was coming from a beach. And I think I had to show that. And if you see the pictures, that's the most difficult part of these kind of stories, that you have to show everything in one picture. And that picture had the action. The action was the burning of Rohingya villages in the background. So you can see Myanmar in the background. Then you have the boat where refugees are jumping from the boat, which means this is the refugees, Rohingya refugees. And then you have the woman, this is the state of them right now. So same thing with the shooter. I mean, you have to think very, very quickly. It's just you don't have time for that, all those things, this kind of breaking spot news. You need to show the reaction of the cops, and you have to show what is happening. And as I said before, if the cops would have not been behind, it was just another shooter. Thank you to the cops.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Do you really connect emotionally with the subject you're shooting in the Rohingya shoot?
It depends. I mean, you have to respect, for sure. And especially with kind of assignments like Rohingyas and all. As I said before, if you don't treat them with dignity and respect, and if you treat them as a commodity, they will realize it. And you don't want to do that. I mean, you can do it for 1 year, you can do it for 2 years, but you can't treat your subjects as a commodity all the time. So that's very, very important. As I said, the pictures, breaking news is a totally different thing because it's happening so fast. But these kind of assignments, these kind of basically events which you cover, which you could pause thing, I think it's very important to have your heart in the right place. Then only you can shoot it.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. I just wanted to follow a bit up on what Pooja was asking. Regards to, because I'm also from origin a print journalist, then now I also do a bit of TV, which also works with image, but then you're still aided by, voiceover or interviews, etc. From journalism school until later on with editors, etc. We have daily discussions of how to cover a certain topic, on which words to use, as a journalist, we always say, okay, we have to neutral, and it's also our nature and our interest to understand all the people involved, but we're, at the end of the day, you're human beings, and there's also some, always some subjectivity in your, that influences you even unknowingly. So, a short question which can have a very short answer is, do you think that as a photojournalism by nature is more objective than print or
yeah, I think it's take it or leave it. It's kind of that. It's this is what it is, and you can't alter too much. Your opinions, you can't alter your opinions too much. You can not show it, that's a different thing, but again, I don't know, but personally about me, I think I've been I don't know how I've been trained, for me.
And then at the end of the day, an editor might make a decision on which of your pictures to use and how to caption them.
Luckily it doesn't happen with Reuters.
Right, yeah.
Sorry? There's no time for that, and you trust the guys,
Yeah. And do you write the captions?
Yeah,
you do, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we sit down with the text guys then to see whether we are not going in one way or another.
Yeah.
Politically correct.
Because even with, Reuters, I think, because now, a lot of social media, they're talking about, okay, we should not call this a clash or a riot. We should not use neutral words.
Yeah.
But then,
so when I think you're talking about the story, the first day when the story came, I think the thing was, it was a clash. It was happening from both sides. It's not that like one side is just doing it.
Yeah.
It was happening from both sides, and we showcased in our text story. We shared it through pictures, through videos. So it became a riot after some time. But
Yeah.
when we were initially, if we are reporting, it was a clash.
So in the case of that one picture with one man and a crowd, it's not a clash, but the overall story was a clash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just not like Muslims were just getting beaten up everywhere. It was Muslims were also pelting stones.
Yeah.
You know, so it was not like that. Sorry, but I think the following hours or days, we when it turned out and we thought like now it's the riot, then we started writing riots, the captions and the stories. Yeah.
And then as you're going to, like next week, you're going to follow up on the story, then how do you discuss with people, okay, where do we go? Who will we, like what kind of, you know, that's also, again,
Yeah, I think
there's a
we
lot
have
of
been,
choices to be made there.
yeah, I think we have been following up or doing stories the whole week.
Yeah.
Like whether it was about, for example, how yesterday was a very nice story which we did, my colleagues did, on how a Hindu lady who was supposed to get married and the riots happened, how she was helped by Muslims to get that the wedding goes on. So that's, and then we interviewed this guy who I shot in the picture. So we are doing follow, but like of course we sit down and then we see like where the story is moving and then we decide accordingly like what to do and what not to do. And there's some projects which are short term, there's some projects which are long term, yeah.
Okay, I think.
Danish, for you as a seasoned photographer, I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a difference in quality by the photo taken by the camera and through mobile phone? If so, whatever may be your answer, is it safer to carry a mobile phone for photography in a war-torn area or a riot-torn area?
I mean, again, it depends. It's a very technical thing. Cameras are very high-end. Of course, you can't shoot sports with a phone camera. But people have shot wars with phone cameras. Yeah, with mobile phone. Yeah, people.
No difference in quality?
I don't see much difference now.
So it is safer to carry in a war.
I mean, again, it depends from where. I mean, like if you want to take a picture of somebody who's going like 500, 600 meters away from you, you will never shoot it with a phone. But again, it depends what you want to shoot in the war.
For long distance, it is.
Yeah, but like again, how do you want to portray the war? You want to be close? Is it safe to be so close to your subjects or whatever you want to shoot? Or you want to shoot the more human side where there's not too much dangers but still a war zone, and you think it's fine to use a phone camera. Again, it depends what you want to shoot and where you want to shoot. So yeah.
Hello.
Hey, hi.
Brother, I am Vijay Bhaskar, Supreme Court advocate. I put a question,
Yes.
a general question to the press and particularly to the photographers. So you take one photograph and publish in the newspapers, but the descriptions differently you are giving. I will give one example. In Andhra Pradesh, like CAA, an agitation is going on against the shifting of the capitals. Particularly, it is led by majority of the ladies. So, to maintain law and order, the state government brought a large number of ladies constables.
Yeah.
So, they are accommodated in the schools. So, these photographs, they went when they were dressing and took the photographs and all these things. How you justify it?
I'm not justifying it at all. You are
No. You are
No.
printing a photograph in the newspapers and description you are giving it differently.
Which is wrong, I think. We don't do it. We in Reuters have never done
Because
it.
it happened in Andhra Pradesh. When these constables were taking the dresses and all, these photographs went and took the photographs. Yeah. How you justify it?
I'm not justifying it at
Because
all.
mostly in many newspapers, you give one picture and the description is differently in many newspapers.
Yeah, I think...
How you justify it as a photographer?
I'm not at all just... No. I think it's yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. It's justifiable at all, and you can't give wrong captions at all. You know, it's not. It's there has they have. I don't know. It's like why it's done, but like at least I can vouch for Reuters where I work that like we have never done that, and yeah.
Actually, this was a riot, northeast Delhi, yes. So didn't you manage to take a single picture of anti-CA protester?
Did I take off? Yeah.
You have taken?
While they were where the clashes were happening.
Yes.
A lot of them.
So you didn't take any single picture of anti-CA protesters?
I took pictures of them, like anti-CA protesters. What were they doing there? Or
Yeah,
what?
they were involved in riot also.
See,
both people were involved in riot.
First of all, as a journalist, I am there. I don't know who is anti-CA and who is CA. Okay, they're just two sides. There are people who are clashing. There's one side, they are supporting, and one side who is not supporting through their slogans. Okay, so I have taken several pictures of them clashing. I have several pictures of them also. So it's not like I've just taken one side.
But you yourself said just a few minutes back that Muslims are being targeted everywhere. You said no?
No.
No, he didn't say that.
No.
Sorry. Did you ever get into a sticky situation where somebody tried to beat you up or snatch your camera? I think the cops picked you up in Sri Lanka, and I had to speak to the foreign secretary. Was that you? I mean, what was the picture about? Tell us.
They never beat me up in Sri Lanka. They were very nice, cordial. They offered some nice coffee and stuff. You get some marks. It's fine. They heal up. Yeah. I think it's fine. It happens. I think with every journalist, I think it's fine until it's like fatal or. I think it's fine. Happens.
So let me ask you to expand a little bit about the training and preparation aspect, because there are a lot of people in this room who don't have the same amount of years or exposure to this kind of stories. So what would you say to people who want to be better prepared to cover these kinds of stories in a serious and neutral manner and in a safe and effective manner, as it were?
I think safe is a very important word because I can vouch for Reuters that it has been very, very. When I joined Reuters, I was 26 years old, and Osama bin Laden, or maybe he was just killed or whatever, I don't remember. But they didn't allow me to cover any conflict even after training. I was given a training in the first 6 months, which is called hostile environment training, which for a 5-day intensive training, which changes from courses to course, whether you want to cover conflict or natural disasters or stuff like that. And they still wanted me to take it easy, watch pictures of other guys who are doing it, and then they sent me to Afghanistan. So it was just not, you have got the training, now you can go anywhere. No. You need to cover small things first, and then you go to intense parts later. And I think that should be done. In Mosul, there was a kid from US. He came just out of the university with no protective gear, and he came to the front line, and within 45 minutes he was shot. And he didn't even have insurance. So how do you evacuate him, and get to him to a better hospital? So there's a committee of journalists, frontline journalists. They got the money, got him evacuated and all that stuff. So this is like stupidity, I would say, that you just want to go and prove yourself. But for what? And I think that's the problem. It's like that's what I've now, in the last, at least in Delhi, which I can see now, that there's so many. I'm so happy at one point that there are so many guys who are coming into photojournalism, but so many want to prove themselves. You don't have to prove yourself now. You will be able to prove yourself over a period of time if you survive. If you're going and standing next to the gunman or going in front of him, you won't survive. So it's not one picture, and it's not the end of the day. Like if you miss that picture, whatever, it's fine. You have to tell the stories, and for the real stories, you have to be alive and kicking, you know.
All right, well, Danish, thank you so much for being here. It's been
thanks for
really great.
inviting.
I want to make an announcement, friends. On the 4th of March, Kailash Satyarthi, who is a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, along with Malala Yousafzai, somebody has made a documentary which has won an award, and Satyarthi will be here after the screening is over to take questions. So we'll be delighted to have you here when that happens. Okay, this is on the 4th, and you would have received the message on WhatsApp and email and everything. So this series, we are delighted to see a lot of young journalists and professionals to come and attend these events. We keep doing this at least once a month. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Danish. Of course, we had an event when he and other members of the Reuters won the Pulitzer for their brilliant coverage of Rohingya sometime last year or was the year before? Year before. And we are delighted to have you with us. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And next month, watch out. Emily will come up with some interesting person to talk about. Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome in advance. Okay, thanks.
This and also it would have gone on Facebook Live. It will be uploaded on our website and so on. People who may have missed it, they're welcome to see that, catch up with it. Thank you.